has acrylic paints set up in a few minutes. It's always important to keep your brush moist until you have a chance to completely clean it. I'm going to go now to a nice liberal round, and I'm going to just set in my subject matter. I'm going to create a space for the vase. I'm going to set it off center, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in a few strands for the floral. So for the base, I'm going to just dip into this white that has a touch of blue in it already, and I'm going to situate it on the surface, as so. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to just do something kind of modern and relaxed. We're not working on developing a whole lot of skills, and we're working on having some fun. This is a beautiful American glass vintage antique piece. And you can see I'm just guesstimating to get it on the surface, and we'll work with that later. I'm not going to clean my brush. I'm going to just go ahead and dip into the deeper brown and just start setting in some branches and vines. I'm using the tip of the brush, and I am framing an open space that will be here, that will give the viewer a chance to rest their eye. I'm being careful to create some variety as I look at my subject matter as to how the branches are moving. And I'm putting in the branches first because I'm going to go ahead and put the floral in probably towards the end. There are quite a few stalks here, and when they get into the glass themselves, they refract. And I'm working with an imaginary construct using silk flowers, so there's no water in the vase right now. There's just some clear bubble wrap holding them in place. Putting in a few more strands. Very good. I'm going to go ahead and rinse this. Some of the branches today are of a different color. They're of a deep green. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush and blot it dry. Choose the green. Choose some brown with the green. Get a little bit of the blue to cool it. And I'm going to put in some heavier green branches here and there. One of the things to do is to make sure that there's a certain amount of color in each range of value when you're doing a floral, to make sure that your viewer is interested and has something interesting to look at. I'm going to do a few very light ones here, just like so. What I hope to do now is add a little bit of yellow green and yellow to my green, and a little bit of white, and lighten it up. And where I'm sitting at, I have a nice bunch of green leaves right here, so I'm going to create those. I'm going to touch down and curl and lift, touch down, curl and lift, and again. Over here I have a leaf at an angle. You can see I'm twirling the brush as well to create that shape. The florist once told me, she says, if you're going to go ahead and create an arrangement, make sure there's enough green. She said people will always want the green. Now there's some leaves in the back that are more blue, so I'm going to come in now and do that. And there's quite a few out here, so I'm going to just go ahead and put those in very freely, just touches of blue. And up here there are some that are very, very dark green, but right now I want to get some of the other ones over here. The joy of acrylics is that they will set up within minutes. So if you're not exact on your color, you can go ahead and return and stain or repaint very quickly. Some of the leaves up here are violet, they're a pale violet. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush. Rinse it, pick up some of the violet, go into this white that I had here earlier, touch of white, touch of green, very beautiful kind of organic violet red leaves. A few that are darker, add a little more violet. You might notice that I do not, for the most part, enjoy putting black on my palette. I would much rather use the color itself and its value to create the color that I'm seeing. I'm mixing this green with the violet that I made, and I'm going to put in just a few more branch samplings. I'm going to highlight a few that I've already put in. I'm just running a bit of color along the side of them. The next thing I'm going to do is mix a very dark green. And for that I may just take some blue and a little bit of green, because I have some deeper leaves right here coming toward me, many that are back here going in this direction, and a few that are coming down and flopping out and then becoming light when the light hits them. Right there. Same as with over here. I have some that are darker that end up coming into the light. One of the ways to bring blue down is to add a little bit of red. And one of the ways to brown out green is to go ahead and add a little bit of red. It calms it down. Many individuals ask me, what do I do about the green that looks stark green? And I tell them the secret to green is red. Okay, I'm working a variety of leaf shapes. I'm doing my best to pay attention to my surface. There's going to be a lot of floral activity there. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a good green base. I want to make sure that there's some blue showing through. And I want to make sure that there's enough of the darker green in there to give it variety. Another thing I ask my students to do to solve the "it looks so green" look is to regularly mix many greens. Consider using 10,000 greens. Alright, a little bit of the green and a little bit of the yellow and a little bit of the brown for a couple of light spots out here. There's one or two out here that are quite vibrant and pretty. Didn't want to miss those. And we have a little bit of that right here as well, brighter spots. On the vase, and we're going to get brush number 3. We're just not even going to waste a lot of time. And so I'm going to go ahead and chisel out the vase and the base of the vase. There's a dark side to it because my light is coming from the right-hand side. And the top of the vase is picking up the green from the greens. If you're doing this for a fundraiser or just for fun, I invite you to go ahead and do that. Make sure you have fun. There's a little bit more definition to that base. And let's get a little bit of pale white in there as well. It almost looks like the background color, but we're going to bring that down because it's reflecting off the wall. And there's a star on the bottom there. Let me go ahead and put some white on there. Highlights, just a few, to help formulate the edging of the vase. Let's put a little more there. Okay, very good. And a few bright spots here and there. It's very simple to paint glass. What you're painting is just the fractured bits of light. Need not be exact. Okay, there's a bit of a shadow cast here to the side from the vase. So I'm going to take a little bit of the brown and blue, and I'm going to come in and define it and put the base right there. Shadow cast it. It's a little dark, so I'm going to highlight it. Just picked up some of the white from the palette and put that in there. There's also some shadow cast here from the floral. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little more color there in the distance, as well as bring it around through here and make sure that I put it in there as well. Going back into the brown, coming up to the edge that I just moved, and smoothing that out a bit. Okay, very good. There's some drip here from when I put the original paint on. So I'm going to go ahead and add some highlights while I'm there. I'm mixing my warm brown and my deeper brown, and I'm just reinforcing that surface to look more painterly and less drip and stain. I'm basically just putting in more surface buildup onto the support support today is a large piece of masonite that was prepped with gesso. There's some light coming in here, and you can see this is lighter, but I wanted to correct that light right now, and just put a little bit of light coming in from there for right now. There'll be more on this later. Here we are with that. Okay, I'm going to move to the very small brush now, and we have an array of beautiful white, yellow, and orange floral. Before I get on that, I wanted to go ahead and put a little more definition here. In the elements. I'm using the fine brush now. Should you desire to spend more time on your painting, you can use an array of brushes and far more detailed technique. Today though, we're just looking at what we can do with a little bit of time and 3 brushes in a very simple setup to create a brilliant color burst for any room. I'm going to go ahead and ground the vase with some shadow on that glass. Which will give us some contrast to the overall shape and form. There we are. Alright, I put in a little bit more vines, branches, and now I'm mixing an off-white with a little bit of blue, and I have some dogwood type flowers here, so I'm touching down and wiggling the brush and lifting, touching down, wiggling the brush and lifting, touching down, wiggling the brush and lifting. There's another one on the front here. They don't have a lot of light on them. I'm hoping you can see this from the camera view and the lighting on the camera. And do this again. I'm enjoying not being exacting here and just going ahead and creating some fun shapes. I've loaded my brush with a lot of paint to do these. I'm not putting in as nearly as many as are in the vase, but I'm having some real fun doing it. I love to paint. When I'm painting, I'm not thinking of much else, and I really get to get away. It's a very relaxing thing to do if you have a stressful lifestyle. or you'd like to really feel an immense amount of time move by very quickly. I'm adding in a certain amount more of blue and brown, and I'm going to put a few out here. And we see them far out to the right. Okay. Normally you do the lightest ones at the last, but we're having fun, and we're going to move about quite a bit today. We're also looking for a more modern approach than a realist approach. So I'm giving myself artistic license. Let's take a look at the beautiful yellow ones. And go ahead and mix some yellow with a little bit of white and start in on that. I'm going to mix just a bit of the yellow ochre with them to bring it down. And similarly to red, one of the ways to calm down yellow is to mix it with violet. We have a few bursts right here. Touch down and lift, touch down and lift, touch down and lift. The idea is to make them look different. Try not to have them all look alike. Let yourself experiment with the brush. Experiment with more than one type of brush if you would like. Some artists enjoy doing flowers with a flat brush. Others enjoy doing flowers with a round. There's all kinds of brushes out there. Whatever you have, be sure and enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to go up here and make a big array of yellow. We're going to move really, really fast. Give you an idea of how fast we can move. I'm going to be painting over and over. Other brush strokes. And leaving large spots of paint on the surface. I haven't changed the yellow that I'm using so far. I'm just enjoying it just as it is. I'll go ahead and bring the color up in a few moments. Or bring it down. I'm going to go ahead and add to the right here a little bit of the darker yellow, the ochre, and put in some small blossoms over there. You can see I'm making these a slightly bit smaller. The blossoms are further away. I'm going to go up here, make an array here. One of the things that you want to do when you set up your canvas or your support, whatever type of surface you're working on, you want to set it relative to your arm reach and height and or your subject matter. Now if you're working outdoors or if you're working in a tight space with limited access, you may not be able to do that, but you will find with time that you're far much more comfortable and more energetic at the end of your paint, provided you can maintain a comfortable studio arrangement. Your studio can either be portable and collapsible or something that's set up all the time. You get to choose. Let's take a look at this here. I've had some drips from the white. No problem there. Just go ahead and take the brush that we had. We'll go back in. We'll add some more surface to that area. Might even work well for us. Just cover that up. Redefine the shape. Maybe put a little highlight there. Go ahead and pull in some more glue, soften that down. Voila. More interesting shape. You can go ahead and push back on your subject matter and redefine the shape by painting around. A soft edge will look more in the distance than a near edge. Just keep that in mind. The softer your edge, the more distant it's going to be and recede than the near edge. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of color here. I'm just getting a whole mishmash to make a natural brown. And I'm putting in that edge. I'm redefining the shadow and my clear space between the base and the wall. There we are. Okay. Still have a little bit there. One of the things that I like to do in the background is create a sense of background. So I'm going to mix some blue and white, similar to the background but different, and put some brush strokes in to give the surface a sense of texture and movement just in the brush itself. I'm going to kind of mimic the idea of plants and my brush strokes throughout. This is to give the painting some more continuity and rhythm and interest for the viewer. There's really no such thing as a mistake. There's just an opportunity to create a more beautiful image. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab some red, mix it with yellow and white, a little more red, and I have an array of orange pods that I'm going to go ahead and get in here to the right. A little more red, a little more yellow. There are some here that are in the distance and small and much brighter. Put those in. And I have some that are reaching out this way. Okay. Very nice. Let's go back and address some of the leaves and some highlights on the leaves with yellow and white and a little bit of green. And we're going to go ahead and put some definition on those. It's a little bit too yellow. And put some more green in, mix the greens. I'm using my brush to follow the form. Those are a bit bright, so I'm coming right back in with some green. I like to mix on the surface. It's just a technique I enjoy doing. You might enjoy it too. It's a way I build up paint to make sure that I'm not leaving it too thin on the surface, particularly when I'm working with flow paints. I have a tendency to do it just a little bit too thin. You will find out in time what type of painter you are, whether you're a thin or thick paint applicator. I want to get some darkness in here, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of darkness on these. What I'm doing now is I'm making certain that the colors are not too simple, that I'm adding intensity of light and dark in the composition. As I go throughout. It looks unfinished here, so I'm going to very quickly go ahead and define these forms. And I'm going to change their color and placement a little bit once they're in the glass. I'm going to make a mix of a brown highlight that has some blue in it, and make sure that even my branches have some tricolor aspects to them. So each time you put down a color, you might want to go ahead and consider what would be a lighter value for that color and what would be a darker one for you. The vase is still picking up beautiful reflections from the greens. Right now I'm dragging and pulling the brush around so that it looks a little bit like melted glass. I've gone ahead and returned to my idea of defining shape by drawing with the brush. I want to get some highlights on my yellow flowers. Not much, just some here and there. Make sure that they don't look too dull. I've chosen a white with a little bit of yellow in it as a way to communicate that to my viewer. And some up here as well. Not going to do them all alike. You don't want them all to look alike. With the white flowers, I'm going to go ahead and take some white and create a little bit of highlights here and there. They're all a little bit different. Some of them are ribboned, some of them not. You have to be careful with white when you use white. It can really blind the viewer's eye. You don't want to use pure white. And if you get close to pure white, do your best to avoid it. Stick in a few other colors with the white to just soften it a bit. Those flowers have kind of a yellow-green center to them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, the white ones anyway. Add a bit of a yellow-green. And it looks like a spray of floral material there. So touching and jetting up with my brush is a way to manage that information for the flowers. Okay, I'm going to return to the little yellow ones and put some pure yellow on there. I tend to struggle with the yellow being strong enough, so I'm not too afraid to use pure yellow. And that's going to be my third color choice for the flowers. You can see again, I'm not painting all the flower with the third color, just part of it. We're just working abstractly today and having fun with dotting